Fighting evil, that's his creed. Thundering power, lightning speed. Captain Action, he's ideal.
Before the release of Star Wars, almost every toy company turned down the rights to make Star Wars merchandise. After the release of Star Wars, almost every toy company was trying to rip off Star Wars merchandise. Let's take a look at one of those toy companies, Idle Toys, of how it turned down the license of Star Wars and then tried to cash in. Welcome back to the Toy Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video. And this one, we're just going to jump right into it. Idle Toy Company was a toy company founded by Morris and Rose Michigan after they invented something called the teddy bear. Throughout the years, the toy company released many different toys, but they didn't really hit their stride until the baby boom era when they released such classic dolls as Betsy Wetsy, a doll based on Shirley Temple, and the popular Casey. The company then went public in 1970 and was valued at over $70 million. However, their biggest toy was yet to come.
It's the Evel Knievel Rally! Far out! Wow!
The Evel Knievel Stunt Cycle was a huge success and became one of the most popular boy toys of the 1970s. As the 1970s would come to a close, they needed their next big toy line to take them into the 80s. On the other side of the United States, in 1976, 20th Century Fox was getting ready to release their next big hit, Star Wars. And they have already signed up over 20 licenses to guarantee the merchandise rights to Star Wars, from bed sheets to school supplies to toy models and lots more. On February the 14th, 1977, Idle Toy Company got a letter from 20th Century Fox's Director of Business Affairs, Mark Previs. The letter was to inform Ideal Toy Company that 20th Century Fox was going to be at the upcoming Toy Fair, and to let them know about the exciting movie being released in just a couple of months called Star Wars. 20th Century Fox was hoping to talk with Ideal Toys at Toy Fair and sell them a license deal for Star Wars. Along with this letter came a black brochure full of pictures from the Star Wars movie and a description of the film. In late February 1977, Toy Fair opened in New York. While many companies showed up for the 20th Century Fox presentation, Idle Toys didn't. But not to completely ignore 20th Century Fox, Ideal's public relations manager, Zeke Rose, did make a phone call to Mark Previs. Zeke Rose let 20th Century Fox's Mark Previs know that Idle Toys was not interested in producing anything related to the film Star Wars, telling them that science fiction stuff was cachet, and toys from a science fiction movie was very risky, due to most science fiction movies only being in the movie theater a few weeks. He added that being that there was no plans for a Star Wars television show, and the film was just an ordinary science fiction movie, and that the elements of Star Wars had been done before, Idle Toys wasn't interested at all. A few weeks later, 20th Century Fox's Mark Previs got a letter from Ideal Toys. This letter was from Ideal Toy Company's executive, Herb Sand. Mostly in this letter was the same thing said during the phone call a few weeks before. In short, Ideal Toy Company was making it clear to 20th Century Fox they didn't care anything at all about having the rights to Star Wars. A few weeks after that, a smaller toy company that was having huge success with toys based on movies and television series signed a deal with 20th Century Fox. As you know, that toy company was Kenner, and they signed a toy rights deal with 20th Century Fox in April 1977. A month later, May 25th, 1977, Star Wars was released. And by the end of the summer, it was clear Star Wars wasn't just a movie that was going to be at the movie theater for a few weeks and everyone forget about it. This was changing pop culture. It was becoming the latest fad. You saw Star Wars everywhere you went. Star Wars on t-shirts, Star Wars parody songs. Star Wars was everywhere and it wasn't going anywhere. Another toy company at this time, Mego, was having great success with another science fiction toy line, this one based on the television show Star Trek.
The Star Trek USS Enterprise gift set with command chair, console, 3 telescreen cards, and 5 Star Trek action figures. Place Mr. Spock or any Star Trek figure into the transporter room.
It was clear at this time toy companies needed a science fiction toy line, but Ideal Toy Company had nothing in the planning. This was something they needed if they was going to succeed in the new era of toys. Ideal's Toys Vice President of Research and Development, Jules Cooper, said that toy companies are very affected by the latest fads and trends. So it wasn't a question. Ideal Toys needed a science fiction toy line to compete with Star Wars. In late 1977, in the heat of Star Wars fever, 20th Century Fox's Mark Previs met again with the Ideal Toy Company. This time Previs was meeting with the Ideal Toy Company's marketing executive, Stuart Smith. 20th Century Fox was there to sell Ideal Toys' license to their new television series, Young Daniel Boone. Ideal Toys' Stuart Simmons opened up that meeting asking what Star Wars license they could get their hands on. Mark Previs let them know all the license deal for Star Wars had already been made. While the two talked about the upcoming Young Daniel Boone series, the meeting ended, and once again, Simmons asked Previs how can they get a licensing deal for something, anything, related to Star Wars. But it was clear Ideal Toys had missed their boat on releasing anything under the Star Wars brand. So Ideal Toy Company had to do the next best thing. Rip off Star Wars and try to cash in on as much as they can. But what could this toy company do to compete with Star Wars? The toy company went digging into its archives, looking for tools, toys, molds, anything they could use to get a jump start on selling Star Wars-like merchandise. They needed to cash in on Star Wars, and they needed to do it fast and cheap. Kenner had already announced that they wouldn't release Star Wars toys until early 1978, and Ideal Toy Company knew they had to get their new science fiction toy line into the toy stores before Kenner released Star Wars. In the Ideal Toy Company's archives, they found something that just might work: Alien Invader. However, Ideal Toy Company felt that this toy was too expensive to produce, but the Alien Invader did give the company a starting point to go after Star Wars' success. The Alien Invader was from a series of robots called Zerons.
The Zeroids are here. From the planet Zero, the Zeroids! Zirak, the Zeroid commander, frees himself from his own Zeroid capsule. Advance! Zobor, the Zeroid transporter.
These robot toys had arms that would be used to throw small missiles. This was an issue with Ideal Toys, as they had a self-imposed rule as part of their safety guidelines that their toys would not launch projectiles.
Command the Zeroids from Ideal!
And that was the problem with this toy line. All those in this series either shot a missile, thrown a missile, or did something with a missile, except for one. Zog was the only robot in this line that didn't throw his missiles. The problem with Zog is that he was a little expensive to produce. That was mostly due to his head. The head of the robot was an odd-shaped head with 6 tubes as a face. The head was 1/3 the cost of the rest of the toy. But Ideal went to work. They removed anything from that toy that they felt was too expensive to produce. And they changed the color. But they needed more than just one robot. They needed a line of figures to go along with it if they were going to compete against Kenner's Star Wars line. So Ideal Toy Company went back into their archives, this time looking for a human figure.
Now you can play world's greatest investigator with J.J. Arms, the action figure with interchangeable hands. For today's mission, pretend to find the missing atomic warhead. Changing to suction cups, you can make J.J. scale an abandoned shed. Using hooks, J.J. slides down, hot on the trail. Now, quickly switching to J.J.'s magnetic hand, you recover the missing warhead. J.J. Arms comes with everything you see from Ideal.
According to Julius Cooper, this was the easiest mold they could get. Ideal's toy designers sculpted a completely new head for the figure and molded the body in a different color plastic. Now Ideal Toys had 2 figures for their upcoming science fiction line, but they needed at least one more. So they went back into the archives again.
Bold and brave, strong and true, streak of lightning from the blue. Captain Action.
This time they found Captain Action, and being that he was larger than the other 2 toys, they felt this would be best as the villain of the line. Ideal Toys was in a rush to get these to the market, so the designers were given very little to work with. Just being told, do whatever you wanted, long as it was cheap and fast. The villain was named Knights of Darkness. Ideal said that the name was picked due to its very modern Black Knight outfit and he was planned to be the leader of a series of villainous motorcycle riders. Finally, Ideal Toys had their science fiction line, and it looks like it was going to hit the market before Kenner's Star Wars line. The line was called Star Team. There was 2 figures and 1 villain. Now all they needed was to get this in a package and out to the stores. And all seemed to be going as planned. That was until 20th Century Fox and Kenner Toys saw what Ideal had planned. To them, these figures were a ripoff of Star Wars. Not just the action figures, but even the box art. A cease and desist letter ended up at Ideal Toys, but Ideal let Kenner and Fox know that no changes would be made to their Star Team toy line. Ideal Toys then filed a declaratory judgment action so the court could decide the matter. Kenner then filed a counterclaim against Ideal, saying that the figures and the manner in which they were being sold was unlawful of their rights to the movie Star Wars. The courts ruled that Ideal Toys did intend to capitalize on the success of Star Wars, but they agreed with Ideal Toys that they went out of their way so consumers wouldn't be confused that this was a Star Wars line. The courts went on to say that there was no evidence presented at court that the Ideal Toy Company would weaken the market for Kenner's Star Wars toys. Ideal Toys got to continue their Star Team action figure line, but that toy line wasn't the success that Ideal Toys hoped for, and the line was quickly canceled. In 1981, Ideal Toys will release its own toy that will become one of the most iconic toys of the 80s.
Warning, once you get your hands on Rubik's Cube, you may never be able to put it down. Rubik's Cube, over 3 billion combinations, but just one solution from Ideal.
The Ideal Toy Company will find itself in legal battles with smaller toy companies trying to make their own version of the puzzle cube. In 1982, Ideal Toys were sold to CBS Toys for $58 million. 5 years later, CBS Toys would be sold to Viewmaster International. 2 years after that, Viewmaster Ideal Toys was sold to Tyco Toys for $43 million. Ideal Toys would remain with Tyco Toys until they merged with Mattel in 1997. And the UK division of Ideal Toys were sold to Hasbro. Some of the legal trademarks and old molds from Ideal Toys were sold off to smaller companies throughout the past years. Ideal Toys is now remembered as a great toy line to adults that grew up in the 70s. And they left the question that's still being asked on message boards, websites, social media, toy conventions, and more. Was Star Teams a Star Wars ripoff? Well, that's a look at Ideal Toys turning down the rights to Star Wars and then trying to cash in. I want to thank you for watching. As always, if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel. Click that thumbs up so I know you like my content. Until the next video, we'll talk again.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.